Hey, Al, Donnie here. I don't do this often. I haven't done a whole lot of social media posts over the years, last few years. I don't know why. But today I just felt overly impressed to talk just real briefly about the Lenten season that we're in day 2 of Lent. And maybe Lent's something you grew up practicing. Maybe you went to more of a liturgical type of church growing up. And you practiced Lent, but some people didn't grow up in a church where Lenten season was really practiced in the way that it was in the early church. Uh, I've grown accustomed to it. I actually am endeared by it. I love it. Not because I like to separate myself necessarily from things that I've always loved, like whether it's social media or food or a noon meal or whatever it is. Fasting from something gives us these kind of hunger pangs, so to speak, no matter what it is that we separate ourselves from. And when we come to mind thinking about things that we have pulled away from, that is a reminder for us to focus on the sacrifice and the death and the resurrection and even the journey of Jesus to the cross and the suffering that he had to face, the sacrifices he had to make on our behalf. So it puts us in a place where we can actually join in with him in some ways and be reminded in a positive way of what he did for us. Today I was doing I was getting a devotional online and I was driving listening to it just a few moments ago, and I was on a road in the Thornton area of Colorado here called Riverdale Road, and I was immediately reminded of a time that I was on this road with my Uncle Jim in his super speedy, souped up El Camino. I had just gotten to Colorado on leave um, from the United States Air Force, and as a photojournalist and a photographer, I get to fly in a lot of different things like T-38s. I got to fly in F-16s and things that went really fast, like 5Gs, 4Gs, and I was telling him all these stories about going fast and the thrill of being in these aircraft, and he goes, "Well, let me show you something fast." And he takes me out in that El Camino, and we get on a road called Riverdale Road that I was just on, and I was reminded of what he said. Even though we were in a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone, I think he was going a little over that, and he kind of frightened me a little bit, and I must have had a little bit of um, a shocked face in some way. And he pulls over and he looks at me, he goes, "I just wanted to make you suffer just a little bit and scare the poop out of you." He succeeded. He did. I think my hand grips are still in that dashboard. But I was reminded when he said, "I just wanted to see you suffer a little bit." I was reminded today while I was on that road that the suffering that I experienced with my Uncle Jim in that car was a good suffering. I was joining in with my Uncle Jim. I was seeing the joy that was on his face. And when I think about Jesus approaching the cross, it says in the scriptures that for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. And in fact, Philippians 3, chapter 3, 10 and 11, Paul says this. He says, I want to know the power of the resurrection, and I want to know Jesus by sharing in his sufferings and becoming like him in his death, and that by any means possible that I might be able to experience the resurrection from the dead. And it may seem odd to us that Paul would actually invite himself into suffering. And it's not something that I get up in the morning and go, "Oh, it's a brand new day, the sun come up, I can't wait. Lord, would you provide some element of suffering for me today?" The reality is we don't ever have to invite suffering into our life because the world that we live in is broken. It is a broken world. Every day that we get up, we can face suffering. Every day, something is going to cause irritation or frustration. It's not going to go the way you wanted. And so when I see personally as a chaplain people at the bedside who are suffering at the end of their life, the suffering that we may see or in them that I have seen pales in comparison to the suffering that Jesus would actually be poured out upon on the cross and what he would experience. Paul's invite is simply to ask God to put us in a place where we are reminded of what Jesus went through on our behalf and for our healing and for our hope. So today, maybe you don't invite suffering, but maybe when you experience it in some way, shape, or form, small or big, may you realize that that is God's way of entering into your story and saying, I suffered on your behalf. I am here. I died on the cross so that you would actually find hope even in your suffering. So I pray this prayer over you today. Lord Jesus, in this season of Lent, may those who are listening right now pause in the name of Christ to find ways in the moments of their suffering of their day to recognize that that is a reminder of the suffering Jesus you went through. So Father, bless them, be with them, guide them today, guide me today, and may the pain that we experience throughout our day, the stresses that we face, may it just be a reminder that there is always hope in the cross of Jesus Christ in this season of Lent. There you go. Blessings. Have an awesome day.